Hey class, I hope everybody's doing okay. I wanted to explain a little bit about using other videos. I'm in the process of working on a full set of the 14 classes. Um, and in the meantime, I might be reusing some of those. And if anybody gets confused and doesn't understand what it is I'm doing or what to look for, by all means, either call me or text me, all right? We'll work that out together. This class is going to be about empathy. It's going to try to stress the importance of empathy, what it is, describing it a little bit, how important it is for your kids to start learning, different ways and advice on how you can teach them. Um, but anyway, let's go ahead and get started. The extra thing that I usually work in something extra aside from the class material that I want to work with. And this week I thought I would talk about education. Um, I'm a little prejudiced about that because I started going back to college. I think I was about 50 and I got my master's degree last year at 59. But I love school. I think it's very important. My studies were to help me do case management, which is what I do. Um, but I do recommend it for everybody. If you want to improve your job status, if you just want, if there's something in particular that you're very interested in, just learning more about that. Um, if it's something maybe you weren't able to get a high school diploma, you might want to check into getting a GED, and you can call me. I have information about doing that, and it is free through the Thornhill Education Center. Um, it's also a good way to teach your children about the importance of education. Say you're working, most everybody goes to college online now. Um, but well, mommy's got to do her homework right now, or daddy's got an assignment that's due, and talk to them about school and education. And um, when my daughter-in-law went back to college, that's what she did. She included him and involved him. He didn't have to sit there and watch her go through school or complete assignments or anything, but she would make a comment like, it's very important that I get this done on time. Letting him know that it's important to get work assignments done on time and turned in. She used what she was doing to help him, so that he would start learning and having good thoughts about education and how important it was. Um, I did have a class that's already graduated from these courses, and they texted me so excited. They had enrolled in online college, and one wanted to be a nursing assistant. She's taken, I think it's like a year's course or 2 year, and she was so excited, and I was so proud of her for doing this. And she was going to use that as a way to involve her child in it. Um, I had another one that was more interested in a full 4 year program, and I'm not sure what it was about. But I'm not going to say I'm the person that encouraged them to do it, but we did talk a little bit about it. They had questions. If you have questions, call me, text me. I'll be glad to talk to you about it. Try to get you started. Um, there's a lot of grants out there, especially for single parents. You might end up getting a lot of your education for free. I know that I have a case management client, and he showed an interest. And my director is a former school teacher, and she was able to get him so many grants that he's got a free education. He's going to have a free college education and starting in the fall, and excited about it. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that this week. And let's go on in and start talking about developing empathy. Um, I've got a little outline here, and I'm trying to get better about following this stuff. Sometimes I just kind of go off on the bunny trail. But anyway, I wanted to start it out by defining exactly what empathy is. Um, and it says in the handbook that empathy is the ability for one person to perceive the emotions, needs, and desires of another person. Um, it goes on. Basically, it says that it gives you an opportunity to walk in another person's shoes, so to speak. Um, Sometimes it could be a situation that you've been through yourself. You can help that person. Say it's divorce, and you have a friend or or coworker or family member that's getting ready to go through a divorce, and they're upset. They don't know what to expect, and if you've been there before, you have an idea of what they're feeling, the thoughts that they're having, and it's very helpful to them so they know that other people have gone through this. Um, and you can show a lot of understanding, a lot of care, reaching out and saying something like, anytime you want to talk about this, let me know. That's just a good example of what I'm trying to talk about. Empathy is it's one thing that sets us apart from any other creation. We are designed that way to help others, to feel their pain, and it could be a situation that you've not been there, done that. It could be something like maybe they have experienced the loss of a loved one and you've never experienced that, but you can still tell, how they're feeling, watching their emotions, how they talk, facial expressions, and you can still show empathy even though you haven't experienced that, by letting them know that you love and that you care about them, that you're going to be there for them if they need you. That's another definition sort of empathy. Um, and the same thing works for you. Um, Say you're going through a bad experience and you might know someone who's gone through the same thing. It's a good source for you to get advice, um, knowledge about about that situation. Um, so use that. Don't be by yourself and try to go through something on your own. It doesn't work. Um, it can make things worse by, many of us have vivid imaginations. Um, we get ideas in our head about a circumstance and it just builds and builds and builds. And if you have another person to talk to about these things, that can prevent a lot of that overextensive imagination, I guess, if you want to call it. Um, and it can help you. It can be a great source. We all need other people. Everyone does. That's the human in us. Um, at this point, and there's going to be several times through the videos that I'm going to tell people about therapy that we have at the Sunshine Center. We have a wonderful therapist. We actually have two. One therapist that her name is, oh, my mind just drew a blank. But anyway, she's fantastic with adults. We have another one that's a child therapist. Her name is Deborah. She's for like kids under 18. So even, the 16, 17-year-olds. This service is free. Angela is the therapist for adults. But if you ever feel like you just need some help, you're going through something, you might be depressed, or you may have a situation lingering from your past, and it's bothered you so much, keep going as an adult, just give the Sunshine Center a phone call. They'll be glad to set you up with some sessions with Angela. And like I said, she's fantastic. I have some of my domestic violence clients that see her on a continuous basis, and they just love her. She's very confidential. She's been doing this thing for several years. She knows what she's talking about. But anyway, that's my advice to you. And it just came in at that moment in teaching. I don't know why, but it is critical. I have a therapist. Um, I I love that connection. It's a sounding board for things I want to sound off to people that maybe I'm not comfortable talking with somebody else about. Um, I highly recommend it. It's great for just about anything you might be going through. But anyway, let's go on. Let's get on with the study that we're doing. Um, our next time, it's kind of like, how does empathy develop? Empathy, empathy starts developing at an early age. Children at age 2 will start recognizing it. They'll see things. They'll see a sibling in distress. Um, and if you're around, you might say, he's upset right now. Why don't you go give him a hug? But he can, that 2-year-old can tell. They start learning about emotions in others, about things like that. And at 2, start teaching them. Start teaching them what empathy is, how to have empathy, how to show it towards other kids. It could be maybe they're in daycare and another child is upset. They might learn, well, take him a toy the next time that you guys are playing and they seem upset. Sit down and play with them. They start learning these things, and it's going to make them happy when they can make somebody else happy, just like it does us adults. If I've helped someone, it makes me feel happy that I've had been some kind of assistance. And they start learning it at age 2. And, keep continuing to develop that as they grow, age appropriately. Like at the age 2, give somebody, you see them crying, go give them a hug. In older years, you might, and then when they get into their teenage years or middle school years, let them know that you're there, that you're going to help them if you can. Well, I got grounded too, and it made me upset. And this is the way I handled it. Teach them how to, as they grow, appropriate ages and what you think is appropriate for them at particular ages. And you're going to look up one day and a lot of things we try to teach our kids, and it's kind of like, yeah, are they really learning this? Are they really picking up on what I'm teaching them? And you'll see it. You'll see it in your kids. I have 2 grandsons that are extremely oversensitive, and any emotion that they see in anyone just completely upsets them. They are great with sympathy, but we have to, we've all been trying to help them with this, but I think it's just in their personality and the way that they are. And you might have a child that's like that. But it helps them work with other people. It's going to help them when they, later in life, when they start employment, with coworkers, with other people that they're around, that they see, in all different sorts of situations and circumstances in life. You know this. You've been there, you've done that. I apologize for that. But anyway, and a lot of things kids learn, as we've talked about, is through role modeling. You may have a friend that comes to the house and wants to talk about something. If your child's around, let them see you giving that person a pat on the back or in a, on the shoulder in a loving kind of way. And, hearing words like, I am so sorry, let's sit here and talk and see if I can help you with any of this. Let them see you being the person that you want them to be. And that's the best way to start teaching empathy. And that's how it develops, by watching them. One of my grandsons, he didn't get his younger brother until he was 10. And he would get so upset when Kason would cry. And, um, and he was showing empathy. Um, he was upset that his brother was crying. Um, when his brother started walking, he fell down at my house and got a bump, and Braden just busted out crying. It upset him terribly that his baby brother. Well, your kids might do that to friends. A kid might burst out crying in daycare, like we had talked about. Um, and they might be upset about it and naturally go over to help soothe that child. Um, these are wonderful traits, and always reward them. We talked about rewards. Rewards are not always a thing. A lot of times it's like, I am so proud of you for being there for your friend. Um, or I know you don't know this child, and that was just wonderful in the way that you were supportive and that you showed them that you cared. Um, that's going to help him to continue to show empathy towards others. Um, children like to know, we're real good at pointing out their bad behaviors, but they really love to know that their behavior has been good. It encourages them. It builds up their self-esteem, their self-worth. Um, yeah, let's keep on going with this. um, the next thing, and this opens the door for something else I want to talk about. The question is in the manual is, do all children develop empathy equally? Well, I'm here to tell you that no children develop anything practically equally. Um, and make sure you make it a point not to let your child, such and such is tying their shoes. Why aren't you? Such and such already knows their ABCs. Why don't you know that? This kid knows this and you don't know it. Don't start that. It produces low self-esteem. It produces them not having confidence in themselves. You might find a child that's always going to be trying to measure up to what you expect. And a lot of those expectations, because of doing that, are going to be so far out. You don't want them to grow up thinking they've got to achieve because this person did. They've got to achieve this because their mom or dad did. Everybody learns, and I mean, even as adults, I'm a repetitive learner. I have to do something several times before it finally clicks, and I've got it. It was like messing around with YouTube when I started these videos. That stuff doesn't come to me. I'm not techie smart. So I did it once and did this. And then the next time I went to do it, it was kind of like, what did I do to create this? And everybody's different. There's some people I'm very envious of. You show somebody something once and they're just an absolute pro at it. But we all learn differently. So make sure that you don't try to compare your child to something else. Maybe your 2-year-old is upset if they see a child crying. Maybe another child is not so upset about it. In those cases, you might want to say, I saw that your friend at daycare when I picked you up was really upset. If you see them doing that again, maybe you might want to go share a toy with them, or, make friends with them so they don't feel alone, and guide them towards that goal. Didn't you see such and such over there and how they brought a toy to them? Why didn't you do something like that? Please don't do that with your kids. It's going to show for the rest of their lives. They may become over competitive. So just really be careful about doing things like that. I've noticed this video just keeps cutting in and out. I don't know what's going on with that one. Here's a section that I really like. It's how can parents help their children develop empathy? I've already talked about a few of those things. They have even better suggestions. One of them is using nurturing discipline techniques. Um, that goes into we've had some lessons on discipline. Um, you know, hitting, spanking, talking down to your child, comparing your child, criticizing extensively. Those are roadblocks that can prevent developing empathy. So your child is crying uncontrollably, and you all haul off and whop them on the rear end and saying, um, the thing in my day was like, I'll give you something to cry about. That's horrible. Um, then they may see a child in daycare that's crying and can walk up and, shut up. So the way we discipline is the way that they're learning to deal with other people. We've talked about how harsh discipline can lead to bullying. This is another prime example of the harm that it can do. That's why I'm so very big, and you'll hear me from time to time talking more about discipline in other videos. But as I'm learning and reading these materials and researching, um, there's a lot of things that children go through or experience that can prevent them from learning the different morals and ethics that we want them to learn. And harsh discipline is one of those. It affects many things. Um, you want to teach your child that they need to be loving and show supportive empathy and not just hit somebody and tell them to shut up, you're getting on my nerves. Because they're going to copy what you do. They see and hear nearly every single thing that you do and how you act. And 9 times out of 10, they're going to act exactly the way they've seen you do things. And this is one. Teach children to express their feelings. We had the video on feelings, that it's okay to have them. If they're upset about something and they're crying when they get home from school or daycare, don't, well, what in the world are you crying about today? Show them empathy. I see that you're upset today. What on earth happened today? Let's talk about it. See what I can do. Let's help. Let's come up with some solutions together. Of course, in their language. But yeah, feelings have a lot to do with it. And teach them that all feelings are okay. All feelings are okay. It's the way we handle those feelings, like we talked about, that say whether it's good or bad. Identify and honor your children's feelings. I mentioned that when children express an emotion, identify it, honor their feelings. They give an example. Julia, you look so sad. I know you've lost your phone, and I know that's a very sad thing and important. Let's see what we can do. Help them instead of, geez, you've lost your phone again. Deal with it by yourself, and that could be really tempting to do. I know my daughter-in-law has big issues with my grandson. And there are sometimes like, Brayden, I don't know what you've done with it, but you've lost it, and there you are without a phone. And it's because she's done it over and over and over again. And so finally now it's come to, and I agree with her, after a while it's kind of like we've gone through this a dozen times. And that might be the case in some situations. Model empathy. I've talked about that. Let them see you showing and giving empathy. Be a role model and how to display it. Don't let them see your friends like, oh, for God's sake, stop crying. Everybody else has gone through this. You'll get through it yourself. Leave me alone. I'm sick of hearing it. Then that's what they're going to do. Role modeling is vitally important. That's why I talk about it all the time. When you're raising children the way you want them to be raised and developing morals and ethics and habits that you want them to have. You want them to grow up to be a loving, caring person. Role modeling is the best way to do that. Develop family morals. And that starts at an early age. I think we've already had the class on ethics and morals. Don't really remember. I get mixed up sometimes on what I've taught and what I haven't. Um, but, they learn that, a moral that you develop that you work with your kids is you don't hit the family pet. Um, I don't know how that relates. They've got it in there for some reason. Right now, my mind is blank on what in the world you're talking about. Let me look at that just one more time. Um, yeah, it's just, yeah, and roots of morality are found in empathy. Um, since empathizing with somebody can prevent victimizing that person. Um, that's all the explanation we need from that one, right? I don't get it. Should have looked better when I was doing my outline. Uh, we're going to keep on going in how we're teaching kids empathy. Observe others. When you're with your child in a store or watching TV, when appropriate, you might point out what somebody else is doing. Oh goodness, that child is upset. Um, Look how her friend is empathizing or helping her with that. Um, isn't she showing a lot of love to her friend? You know, there's all kinds of examples you can see out in public. Somebody who slips and falls down on the ice, and you observe another person going to them and, are you okay? Are you all right? And let me help you up. And you might point at them, look how they slipped and fell, and look how that person is making sure they're okay and helping them out. We need to make sure that we do this to others, don't you think? Conversations. Um, Always have positive conversations with your kids, especially what you see out in public, whether it's good or bad. You might see bad behaviors out there. Look at that child throwing a temper tantrum because he didn't get what he wanted. Let's don't do that. Okay? Let's don't do that in the store. I don't know. Maybe it'll help you. Maybe it won't. Who knows with kids? Um, Developing family rules. That's what I said. We don't hit people. We don't hurt them. We don't say horrible things to people. When you tell your brother to shut up and get over it and stop crying, that's not helping him at all. But a hug or a comforting touch, that's helpful. And that's what we do in our house. And we want you to do the same thing. That's how we treat others. That's how we want you to treat others. Give them good examples. Show them the behaviors that you want in your family rules. Um, and another example, I like this one here, when I was talking about how your kids observe others and pointing out observations that you have that you want your child to have. Um, and they're learning. And this kind of example shows that. It's like the kid looked up and said, look at that, Mom, she hit her son. Why do you think she did that? That's horrible. And, they notice these things, especially when you're the parent that doesn't do that. And you can explain to them why we don't have violence, why we use different other ways to discipline. Teaching your kids to care for pets, plants, and things. That's part of nurturing. I think I've given the plant exercise. This might have been with another class, but nurturing is like a plant. How you water it, how you take care of it, helps that plant thrive. You can teach your kid the same thing when you're trying to teach empathy on caring for the dog in gentle ways. That teaches them to be gentle um, in an empathetic way, to be gentle with others. Um, you might, and that's a great activity. My boys loved it, and that was 1,000 years ago. My grandchildren love to do it. Is a little potted plant at home that they can call their own, and you can teach them with that plant about empathy, about taking care of something. Talk to them as you're doing it. We take care of this plant and we water it That's us showing love, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, and everybody knows the one. And when I saw this in the book, I really liked it. I thought, that brings back some childhood because that was beat into my head, not physically, but you know what I'm saying, is do unto others. Um, Teach your child that. Um, if you need to be taught, teach yourself that. Um, I'm going through a situation and I don't want somebody to tell me just to shut up and get over it. So I don't want to do that with that person. They use the example of walking a mile in somebody's shoes to understand how they could be feeling about something. This is the same thing, and this is just a big rule in life. Always treat people the way that you want to be treated. You don't want to be brushed off if you're upset about something. Your child doesn't either, and at this point, this is where I'm going to throw in something. Um, don't ever let yourself forget that you were at the same age that your child was, all the way them growing up. Even my boys now, they're in their lower 30s. And some of the things that they go through, I have to put myself back. At first, I'll think, this is insane. And then I'll put myself back at that age and think, yeah, you thought the same thing. Um, but don't forget, if you're a person like that, like me, that constantly loses things, if you were that type of person, yeah, when I was a teenager, it seems like I never could find anything. That'll help you understand them, especially when they get at an age where their hormones are going insane. Think back at that age when you're sitting there shaking your head going, where is this coming from? When you put yourself back at that age mentally and remember how you started having those feelings at age 12 and 13 and 14 and how it made you feel, and you were crying at the drop of a hat. um, Relationship breakups, sometimes when you're kids, it's just the silliest thing you've ever heard of. They're 14 and my boyfriend dumped me and this and that and everything. Well, before you sit there and think to yourself, good Lord, they're full of drama, remember back. We all got hurt by a boyfriend, a girlfriend, um, and how it felt. Try to remember how it felt. If you don't remember some things, go to your parents. When I got that age, how did you handle my hormonal changes? How did I act? Like, was I acting as crazy as he or she is? Just always remember that. Um, Before you jump to conclusions or make judgments, remember you were in their shoes at one point. You were 13, you were 10, you were 6, you were that age that they are, or have been, or getting ready to be, or are going to be in the future. Um, Sometimes I know when my kids got to be young adults, when they were first talking about opening up a credit card or getting a bank loan, you know, my dad gave me great advice, and most of the time I followed it, but I was young and thought I knew better than he did, and I made them same mistakes anyway. Um, you might talk to them, this is what happened to me when I opened my first credit card. These are some things that you just need to look at. Sometimes they're going to take your advice and sometimes they're not. Some good news is the older they get, the more advice that they take from you. They grow up and they're finally realizing maybe mom wasn't so dumb after all. Um, of course, like I said, they're early 30s and they started picking up on that between 25, 26, something like that. So you've got that to look forward to. The do unto others. I love that. We're almost going to be following through. I'm just going to talk about a homework and then, of course, our quiz. So, like I've said before, when we do online classes, the teaching is typically 30, 35 minutes and the rest of it's discussion. We're not able to do that. I don't know how long we're going to be teaching on video before we do that. So the videos may seem a little bit shorter than an hour. Um, at this point, be grateful. You've got the assignment done and you're ready to go on. Um, which is another thing I want to say right now is I really appreciate your all's hard work. Everybody's been punctual, getting things in on time. That means a lot to me. I don't like to start another week's class before the previous class shuts up or shuts down or is finished. So, until I get everybody's assignments in, I typically don't even go any further. So it helps me a lot keeping my schedule going the way that I want it to go. It helps you all by not getting your videos in too late. So all of these attitudes and such are help me out so much and are very important to me, and I appreciate it. If you have ideas or suggestions about the class, I'm always open to new ideas. I take objective criticism very well. Um, there may be things that I haven't thought of that are like, oh, that's a great idea. Or something else that you may want from the classes that I'm not providing. Maybe it's not provided in my teaching manuals. Things that I can research and start to integrate in with my teaching. So always feel free to talk to me about anything like that. Your ideas are going to be considered extremely important to me. So yeah, if you have any feedback, I'd appreciate hearing stuff like that. It's really, it means a lot to me. Let's see, I think I only had a couple of things I wanted to talk about on this one. Yeah, we talked about that, verbal abuse, spanking, shaking, those are not acts of empathy. You want to do the opposite. Um, we talked about, I love this example. Sammy's upset. He's scared to go to bed. He wakes up, there's a monster in the closet, and I just know there's a monster in that closet, Mom or Dad, and you got to get rid of it. Don't brush him off. Don't. You're the silliest thing I've ever heard of. I don't want to hear that stuff. There's no nothing like that exists. Go to bed. Talk to them. Well, what are you afraid of right now? Is it under the bed? Take them. I looked under there and I don't see anything, but come over here and look with me. Be positive when you talk to your kids about their fears, their anxieties, because they have them just like we do. Maybe it's about different things, but they have anxiety. They get stress, and the stress and anxiety is a lot about the way that we work with them, and how they develop these. And they might be afraid by something else. And they're stuck with it because they're going to be ridiculed. They're going to be talked down to. And this is where communication can be built or destroyed. She just thinks I'm stupid. I'm going to keep my mouth shut. That can go all, and you do not want those kids to be teenagers like that. You don't. I was not aware that I was doing it. Maybe it was my older son's personality, but we had communication that was absolutely amazing. That child told me everything. A lot of stuff I really was uncomfortable knowing, but he told me everything. And and starting at these ages, that's when you can start developing communication. And when you make fun of them or talk to them like they're idiots, they're going to close off. They're not going to come to you with questions. They're not going to come to you if they have a problem. If they went to a party and need to get home, feel awkward, or they've made a mistake, and all you do is yell at them. If they make a mistake at another party, they're not going to call you. I can promise you they're not going to call you. And that could end up with them getting a ride with somebody that's been drinking. They could be walking home in an unsafe environment. You're going to blow it. Believe me and trust me. There's a lot of things I've learned over my 60 years. and communication is a big one. And it's easy to build on, but once you break it, it's really hard to get it back. So teaching empathy and using communication skills, they're going to work together. Your child's going to develop better. They're going to thrive. Instead of being beaten down, they're going to be more open to you. They're going to come to you with their problems, with their questions. If they get themselves in trouble, the likelihood of them going to you when they're in trouble to work it out and deal with it is going to be huge. It's just going to be huge. So please, I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is to develop those communication bridges with your children. Just keep it open and let it grow. Anyway, I get all excited sometimes. I think you can do on topics that are so important to me. And here's another thing. And this kind of goes more into feelings that we've already had a lesson on, but they can work together with empathy. It's brainstorming with your kid. My friend at school was really upset today, and they were crying, and Dad, I just didn't know what to do. I was just standing there, and just my heart was breaking, but I didn't know what to do. And you might just say, well, let's think of some things, that you can help your friend with. Maybe it's, you just simply tell them that you're my friend, I'm concerned, or I'm worried about what you're going through, and I see that you're really upset. If I can help you by just being there or talking with you, you might tell them, I know you didn't understand at school what to do, but, if you want to use my phone to call your friend and do something, by all means, do that. Encourage them to have empathy for others. Always encourage them to do that. If you see, we used an example of somebody falling down or slipping on the ice and showing them how other people help. Maybe that role is reversed towards you. Maybe you guys are walking down the street and somebody slips and falls. You might say, let's go over there and help. Let's see what we can do. And then let them see that, right now we can't touch anybody, but, I'm so sorry you fell. Can I help you? Are you okay? Let them see that. Let them get involved. Like, before you go over there, you say, why don't you ask her if she's okay? Or something like that. But anyway, this is most of the information that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. It was a lot of my information, a lot of their information. So we're going to get on with the quiz questions. And I also have a small homework assignment. Let's just do the homework assignment first, okay? When you all do these assignments and these questions, you don't have to do a paragraph this big. If you want to, that's fine. I love seeing your thoughts about things. I make sure I take my time to read those, to try to understand what you're thinking about a subject, and that's wonderful. But you don't have to. It's up to you and what you want to do. I like it. I really like it. But anyway, the small homework assignment I want you all to do, of course, I'm going to always mention do something for yourself. Like we've said, if you aren't helping yourself, then you can't help anybody else. The second one, I thought it was a really cool thing for just giving you something to think about. And this one is, what is something that I can do to model empathy, to show my child, to role model? What can I do? Just a couple of sentences if that's all you want, or a big paragraph if you want. Just try to think about that. Mull it over in your head and really concentrate and think about it. And then along with your quiz answers, just send me that little paragraph and or sentences and let me know what you think about it, what your goal for that is, what you want to do. Um, Now here we go to the lovely part of the quiz. I've got 4 questions this week. I'm going to try to do every question, just go over it once and then give you a minute and then clarify. Always, as I've said, if you have questions, if you don't understand something, and before stressing or getting all upset about it, just shoot me a text. We'll work it out together. Sometimes I'm not good at wording things very well, and I've had some texts before. It's like, what did you mean? And I'd review it, and it's like, well, no wonder they don't understand what I was trying to say. It was insanity. But always ask. Don't stress. Don't keep going over that video over and over and over again. Just ask me. No question is insignificant. Anyway, number 1, define empathy. It doesn't have to be, I've defined it in different ways throughout the lecture, just something that stood out to you that helped you define what empathy is. But anyway, once again, define empathy. I give time so you guys don't have to keep rewinding and back and back and back. Give you a minute to write things down. Number 2, give an example of a rule that you have in your home or you're going to have in your home that teaches empathy and also teaches what empathy is not. An example of a rule that you have in your home that teaches proper empathy and improper empathy. 2 answers there. Improper we have this rule because I don't want you to do this. We have this rule because I want you to do this. That might need some explanation. So like I said, please ask if you need to. We'll talk about it. Number 3, how does teaching morals help a child learn to have empathy? And once again, how does teaching morals help a child to learn to have empathy? And number 4, the last question. Name another way that you think will teach your child develop empathy. I talked about different suggestions, different ways that we could help our child develop empathy. Just grab onto one of those. Any of them that you want to use for your answer, that's fine. Once again, name another way. Well, I said another way so you can think on your own. Let's just say think about a way that you think will help teach your child develop empathy. Let me reword that again in better wording. Name a way that you think will teach your child to develop empathy. Anyway, that's the end of the class. That's all I've got to say on anything. Once again, I want you to know that I'm here if you have questions, comments, concerns, advice for me. If you have any other problems you want to talk about, please feel free to let me know. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep up the hard work. I'll talk to you later.